Dairy's a big topic, all right? Because when it comes to breakfast, I always associated when I was growing up dairy products of some sort with my traditional breakfast. Milk in your cereal, milk in your oatmeal, cream in your coffee, anyone? All right. And if you live in Europe or you travel to Europe on vacation, you'll notice in a hotel that for breakfast, they'll usually have an area with a glass dome over it where they're actually offering cheese, a couple of slices of cheese. Havarti, anyone? Gouda, anyone? Mozzarella, anyone? All right. And so those are all dairy products.
Could the milk you poured this morning be quietly priming your body for disease? Many adults over 65 unknowingly choose milks that flood the bloodstream with added sugars, concentrate saturated fats, or even carry mold-derived toxins that challenge the liver. But don't panic. Stay right here, because in seconds, you'll hear about one smart milk swap already in your fridge that can help shut down tumor-feeding blood vessels. Unsweetened soy milk. By the end of this video, you'll know 4 science-backed super milks to fortify your defenses, and 4 risky milks to limit or skip, to protect the strong, healthy life you've worked so hard to build. If you're actively in treatment, in remission, or determined to avoid a setback, the wrong glass of milk can undermine weeks of careful choices, stir up inflammation, and turn routine labs into red flags. The good news: choosing wisely, guided by angiogenesis research popularized by Dr. William Li, can help starve tumors by limiting their blood supply, quiet harmful inflammation, and stabilize hormones that certain cancers try to exploit. In the next 30 minutes, you'll gain 8 mission-critical insights. You'll discover 4 super milks, highlighted for their ability to support immunity, steady metabolism, and counter pro-cancer signaling. And you'll learn 4 commonplace but risky milks that hide added sugars, pathogens, or contaminants that accelerate aging. You'll also get precise shopping tips, fat levels, fortification, and ingredient lines, plus storage and prep habits that dramatically cut bacterial risk. Finally, you'll see exactly how to weave these milks into a simple, sustainable, doctor-friendly daily plan. Stay tuned. In about 20 seconds, I'll reveal the milk most likely to carry a carcinogenic mold metabolite if producers don't screen properly, yet it's still poured in cafeterias every single day. Don't worry, there's a fast 2-step shopping and storage habit that makes it far safer. Super milk number 1, unsweetened soy milk.
Let me take you back a couple of decades to when we were thinking about, because I was part of the pioneering team to do this. Now there are dozens of drugs that can actually do this. But back then, when we were hunting for things, we were looking in natural sources. What does Mother Nature have that can actually help our body cut off the blood supply to cancers like breast cancers? Well, the first one, by the way, was soybeans. Amazingly.
I was just going to say, if you soy.
It was soybeans. And I'll tell you the story. Here's a story that most people don't know. I love to share these little nuggets that people just don't know about. It turns out that there was a young researcher at the time, Ted Fotzis, who had moved from Greece to Switzerland to do research. And when you're a young researcher in a lab, they kind of give you the junior guy, the least interesting stuff to do. And they give you kind of the leftovers. So he got in there, and it was a hormone lab, by the way. It was a lab about hormones. And this hormone lab in Switzerland pioneered the ability to look for estrogen in urine, in women's urine. So we're going back to the really late 1970s, early 1980s, all right? And it turns out they gave this young researcher, Ted Fotzis, they gave him a crate of old urine samples from women that they didn't want to use anymore. And they're like, here, this is your project. Go figure out something interesting to do with it. So he looked in the urine and he found the estrogen, right? Because these are women. Mm-hmm. And what he found, though, when he was analyzing the urine, there was this weird spike that came out of the urine that he'd never seen before. In fact, nobody had actually seen it before. So in the lab, he cut the spike out. This is how you do it. You cut the spike out and you analyze what is the spike. That spike was a natural compound from soy called genistein. And so his lab basically said, so what? You know, because it didn't come from humans. Don't forget, this lab was studying human estrogen. And so he found this weird estrogen-like spike out of women. They cut it out. And they said, well, it didn't come from humans. It didn't come from the women. Where did it come from? It came from soy. So, and they're like, well, tell us that it's useful or don't tell us at all. All right. And so what he did is he actually studied the genistein, which is a phytoestrogen, a plant estrogen, which came from soy. All right. And this is one of the origins to how the whole urban legend about soy being damaging came from, phytoestrogens. And he tested it in the systems used for drug development, ultimately, to see if he can starve cancer. And when he dropped the soy genistein in there, boom, it knocked out all the blood vessels that, like, for example,
Wow.
breast cancer in the lab would actually recruit. And he was like, Eureka, wow, that's amazing. All right. And it came from soy, and that led to a research publication that changed everything, including for me, because it led us to understand that foods have natural substances that can cut off the blood supply to cancer. And that's led to my TED Talk and lots of other things that are going on right now. But the origin, the first food that was discovered was soy. Now, let me
that
tell
was where it all came from.
That's where it all came from.
Yeah.
Now,
Wow.
from
okay.
from a hormone lab.
See,
in Switzerland.
from a woman. It came from a woman.
And it came from
really?
a woman. Exactly. Exactly. Now, let me just tell you how this urban legend came about that soy is actually harmful for breast cancer. So, and you know, it's like so many other things that are out there in the blogosphere, in the social media space, and the rumor mill. I think most urban legends on health come from well-intentioned people who are trying to put one and one together. And somebody heard that some human breast cancers are estrogen sensitive, and they are. And then that same person also read somewhere that soybeans have something called a phytoestrogen, and didn't think about the phyto part, just thought about the estrogen part. And again, well-intentioned, saying, well, in that case, you don't want to put any estrogen from soy into the woman. And that's where this took off, like this whole idea that women shouldn't eat soy. But unfortunately, they were wrong because they weren't scientists and they didn't know the data. So this is where, by the way, I think for anybody listening, having partial knowledge really requires you to keep looking for more information and not just take that halfway mark and say, I'm done, I'm the expert.
Yes.
Because what happened is that if you actually, as a scientist, look at what a phytoestrogen looks like, let's say this is the chemical structure, and look what the human estrogen looks like, they don't look anything alike. If you had one on the left screen and the right screen, they're completely different. The chemistry looks completely different. And in fact, what was since discovered is that the phytoestrogen from soy blocks the human estrogen. It's Mother Nature's tamoxifen. All right?
Yes.
It actually blocks the growth of breast cancers. Estrogen responsible for breast cancer. So just completely the opposite. And it starves the cancer. So people would say to me when I was talking about this earlier in my career, they'd say, you know, that's a nice theory, Dr. Lee, but look, I'm a woman. I'm not going to take the chance. All right?
Right.
Well, so what I say is let's look at where the rubber meets the road in people. Let's look at real women with real clinical trials that had only women in it, right? Women with breast cancer. And one of the most famous ones that I talk about is it's the Shanghai Women's Breast Cancer Study, where they studied 5,000 women who were at the highest risk for breast cancer. And you know why they were at the highest risk? Because they already had breast cancer, right? They're at super high risk. And here's what they found. They found that the women who ate more soy had lower mortality.
Wow.
Okay,
because it's protective.
Because it's protective, about 30% lower. And those women who already had their breast cancer removed by surgery and well treated by chemoradiation or hormonal therapy that didn't have any cancer left, those women who ate the most soy over a period of years had a 30% reduction in the chance that breast cancer would come back. All right?
Crazy.
So, survival. Now, then the critic goes, and it's fine. I think anybody wanting to have an intelligent conversation got to be open-minded. Ask questions. I always tell people to ask questions. They're like, okay, well, that's one study. Even though there's 5,000 people in it, you know, has it been repeated? And what I say is that actually, it's a great question because there are 14 other studies that have come out since. And in 14 clinical trials involving women only with breast cancer, in every single study looking at soy intake and breast cancer outcomes, eating soy led to less mortality. And in every study, eating soy led to greater survival. Now, an analysis by researchers at Zhejiang University in China looked again at 21 different clinical studies that all showed that eating large amounts of soybean proteins was associated with benefits to lower the risk of cancer. In fact, a 15% reduction in stomach cancer and other gastrointestinal cancers by eating soybeans. This genistein is anti-angiogenic. That means it cuts off the blood supply to tumors, and beneficial. And by the way, another soy product is soy milk. Soy milk is the choice that I would actually have to cut the strength of your coffee. If you really wanted some milk in your coffee, use soy milk instead of dairy milk. And why would you do that? Is because dairy milk contains dairy fat, and those dairy fats form little soap bubbles that trap the good polyphenols in coffee, like chlorogenic acid. So when you drink coffee with cream or coffee with milk, dairy milk, what's actually happening is that those little soap bubbles trap the good polyphenols and don't tumble down into your stomach. Most of it won't get absorbed. Some of it will, but most of it tumbles right through to your lower gut, and you've missed the opportunity to benefit from most of the polyphenols. Soy milk and nut-based milks, plant-based milks don't have that. So soy milk, oat milk, nut milk, almond milk, no problem. All right.
Unsweetened soy milk is a heavyweight choice, especially if you want steady energy, strong muscles, and long-lasting cellular protection. It gives you complete plant protein plus natural compounds called isoflavones that, in both lab and human studies, can help slow the growth of new blood vessels that tumors need. According to a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, the soy isoflavone genistein was shown to block these blood vessels from formulating, cutting off a key supply line tumors depend on. Soy has also been linked to healthier cholesterol and less inflammation, which means better protection for your heart and your cells. A powerful 1-2 for resilience after 65. How to use it for maximum benefit. Drink 8 to 12 ounces of unsweetened soy milk once or twice a day. Look for unsweetened on the front, a short ingredient list, and added calcium, vitamin D, and B12. Warm it gently and whisk in turmeric and a pinch of ginger for a soothing anti-inflammatory latte. No syrups, no sweeteners needed. Prefer it cold? Blend soy milk with a few frozen cherries and a dash of cardamom for a dessert-like treat that won't spike your blood sugar. Stay close. In 30 seconds you'll hear about a healthy-sounding milk that misleads seniors more than almost any other, sending blood sugar and insulin on a roller coaster. Many flavored milks look wholesome but are really dessert in disguise. Caramel or fruit flavors often hide multiple teaspoons of added sugar per serving, which can push insulin and insulin-like growth signals upward, the very same signals certain cancers use to grow. If you need a quick grab and go, reach for single-serve unsweetened cartons and add aroma with clove or nutmeg instead of sugar. Beyond cancer defense, soy milk's protein helps maintain muscle, a must after 65, and its gentle profile makes it easy to use during or after treatments. For an evening wind down, warm soy milk with saffron threads and crushed cardamom pods. The calming ritual helps many people relax, while steady protein keeps late-night snacking at bay. Super milk number 2. Plain kefir, unsweetened, pasteurized. Plain kefir is fermented dairy packed with live cultures that feed your gut's good bacteria, the control center for your immune system. When your gut is balanced, it helps strengthen the barrier in your digestive tract and teaches your immune cells to spot and stop harmful invaders, including abnormal cells. According to a study in the Frontiers in Microbiology, kefir's probiotic bacteria can lower inflammation and boost immune defenses in ways that may help protect against disease, Frontiers study. Fermentation also breaks down much of the lactose, making kefir easier for many older adults to digest. How to use it? Choose plain, unsweetened kefir, made with live and active cultures. Sip 6 to 8 ounces daily, or swirl it into a savory lassi with fresh dill, a squeeze of lime, and a tiny grate of garlic, no added sugar. For a simple meal upgrade, drizzle kefir into a chilled herb soup or whisk it into a tangy dressing over steamed vegetables to get probiotics without extra sweetness. Stay with me. In moments, you'll hear the most common dairy mistake that quietly raises infection risk for older adults, and the easy habit that fixes it tonight. Refrigeration matters. Keep milk and kefir at or below 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius. Store it in the back of the fridge where it's coldest, and finish open containers within 3 to 5 days. This simple step keeps harmful bacteria from multiplying and helps preserve the vitamins and probiotics you're paying for. Super milk number 3. Lactose-free. Ultra-filtered cow's milk. 1 to 2% fat.
All right. And some people, by the way, don't eat dairy products because they are vegans. And that is actually a principled approach to not eating dairy. So that's another reason why people don't want to have dairy. But this video is about what are the dairy products that you should eat and why. So I do want to tell you that there is some surprising scientific research that's been done on milk. And there are proteins in milk like lactoferrin. Now, lactoferrin is a milk peptide that actually does a lot of different things. They say that it actually can slow tumors down, lowers inflammation. There may be improvements for immunity. This is mostly lab research. And something that I find pretty impressive is that lactoferrin has been shown in the lab to improve healing by stimulating healthy angiogenesis. That's how the body grows blood vessels. Angio, blood vessel, genesis, how blood vessels grow. If you've ever had a cut and you had to have it heal, you needed new blood vessels or angiogenesis to grow to be able to help that healing. And in fact, if you've ever scraped your knee and had a scab on it and had that scab come off too early, it's bright red bubbling underneath it, right? And that's a bird's eye view when you look at it of blood vessels, thousands of blood vessels growing up in order to be able to bring oxygen and nutrients to be able to help stimulate healing in that tissue. So lactoferrin has actually been studied in the wound healing field. I also do wound healing research as well as cancer research. And I've been impressed. Lactoferrin seems to have a lot of benefits. Now, whether or not it actually translates into benefits of drinking milk, we don't know, all right? But if you think about it, the biology makes a lot of sense. A cow creates milk. The milk is consumed by the baby cow. And if there's some healing properties that could be baked into the milk, why not actually have something like lactoferrin that could potentially heal stomach or gastrointestinal tract of a baby cow, all right? Now, the anti-tumor effect is interesting because it's anti-angiogenic. So think about what I told you just now. Lactoferrin can stimulate angiogenesis for healing, but there's also some anti-tumor effects and anti-angiogenic effects. So it depends on the context. And that's why this is really complicated and it's all still in the laboratory. So I'm just sharing with you some of the research done on milk that actually shows that there may be some really beneficial properties that are still untapped. Okay, so I'm setting all this up to basically say that there are some products that we can actually consider that might be beneficial for health, but let's not look at the lab. Let's look at the clinic and let's look for clinical evidence. That's what I always try to emphasize. If you're looking for foods that can actually benefit health, food is medicine, there's a ton of research, all right? What happens in the cells or to a fruit fly or to a rat, completely different than what might happen in a human. So why don't we just jump and focus on what actually happens in humans?
If you love dairy but want better blood sugar control, more protein per sip, and fewer digestive issues, lactose-free ultra-filtered milk is your perfect match. The special filtration process concentrates protein by up to 50% and cuts natural milk sugar, lactose, almost in half, making it easier to digest for people with lactose sensitivity. Extra bonus? The extra protein, about 13 grams per cup, helps older adults protect muscle mass, which is critical after age 65 to maintain balance, mobility, and independence. And because it's lactose-free, it's gentler on digestion. No bloating, cramping, or discomfort for most people. How to use it? Pour 8 to 12 ounces with breakfast to help you stay full longer, or enjoy it as a recovery drink after a walk, strength workout, or gardening session. Choose 1 to 2% fat for a balance of flavor and nutrition unless your healthcare provider says otherwise. Ultra-filtered milk foams beautifully for cappuccinos, blends into vegetable purees for a silky texture, and can replace heavy cream in recipes without losing richness. Try stirring it into creamy soups with a pinch of smoked paprika, nutmeg, or cumin for a savory comfort food that's also good for your body. Pro tip: keep it cold, below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius, to preserve freshness and protein quality. And because ultra-filtered milk stays fresh longer than regular milk, you can stock up without worrying it will spoil too soon. Coming up next, you'll discover the milk in the coffee aisle that isn't really milk at all, and how it can quietly raise your risk for heart and metabolic problems. Supermilk number 4. Unsweetened pea protein milk. Unsweetened pea protein milk is a smart pick for anyone who wants strong, dairy-like protein without the sugar spike. Made from yellow peas, it delivers high-quality plant protein that helps keep blood sugar steady, supports appetite control, and provides long-lasting energy. Many brands also add calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin B12, 3 nutrients that are essential for bone health, immune function, and energy production, especially as we age. According to a study in the British Journal of Nutrition, yellow pea protein in particular was shown to lower post-meal blood sugar and reduce hunger, even helping control glucose at the following meal. This makes it a smart choice for reducing energy crashes and supporting metabolic health. When choosing pea protein milk, always look for unsweetened on the label and a short ingredient list free from added sugars or unnecessary thickeners. Its mild flavor works in both sweet and savory dishes. Pour it over warm, spiced stewed fruit, such as pears gently simmered with star anise, for a comforting treat that feels indulgent without the sugar hit. Blend it with ground flaxseed and fresh ginger for a creamy, fiber-rich mini shake that keeps you satisfied. In cooking, pea milk blends seamlessly into pureed cauliflower or roasted red pepper sauces, adding creaminess and body without dairy cream. Another advantage of pea protein milk is that it's naturally free from lactose, nuts, and soy, making it suitable for people with common food allergies or sensitivities. Its neutral taste means it won't overpower your recipes, whether you're making breakfast smoothies, savory soups, or baked goods. By choosing unsweetened pea protein milk, you're adding protein and essential nutrients to your diet without feeding sugar spikes that can stress your metabolism. Stay tuned. Coming up next is the milk most likely to carry a dangerous mold toxin when cows are fed poorly stored feed, and the simple 2-step fix that can dramatically lower your exposure. Risky pick. Number 1. Raw, unpasteurized milk.
Well, milk does actually have health benefits. For example, milk itself has been shown to help bone development and bone health, especially in children. And that's partly because milk is fortified with vitamin D and it's a source of calcium. What about antibiotics? Antibiotics are actually given by dairy farmers to cows, often in order to be able to prevent bacterial infection. That makes sense if you're the dairy farmer, you don't want sick cows. And the antibiotic that's commonly used is penicillin, which you can actually find in some milk products. Now, there are 2 problems with actually finding antibiotics like penicillin in your milk product. Number 1 is that some people are actually sensitive to antibiotics like penicillin. They can have antibiotic allergies. And while it's rare for milk drinkers to actually have an antibiotic reaction, it's true, it could cause a reaction if you come into contact with the antibiotic that you're actually allergic to. Now, more importantly, and secondly, is that the wide use of antibiotics in agriculture, in that industry, contributes to the development of antibiotic resistance sort of in the public health realm. And that's a problem because if you overuse antibiotics and you encourage bacteria to develop that are resistant to that antibiotic, then when we need that antibiotic, guess what? It's less likely to be effective. And that puts us into a dilemma to be able to find other antibiotics that are actually more effective. So we don't want to be chasing our tail. And that's why I think the judicious use of antibiotics is something that we're looking for. And if you can find the antibiotic in a milk and then it contributes, a lot of people drink milk products, that can be a problem. All right. So the concern about antibiotics is it's valid, but it's actually mostly important from a public health perspective. What about growth hormones? Now, some dairy farmers do use growth hormones to be able to help to increase milk production. Makes sense if you think about it from the production perspective, like the business perspective. You want your cows, which are expensive to raise and keep, to be able to make as much milk product as possible, right? It's like if you own a car factory, you want the factory to be able to slam out as many cars as possible. Okay, so how do dairy farmers do this? Well, they can inject a biosynthetic chemical called a growth factor. In this case, specifically, it's called recombinant bovine somatotropin. This is actually a growth hormone that's naturally produced by the cows, but we can actually create it synthetically, inject it, and the domino effect of that hormone is actually more milk production. So that's actually good for the company's perspective. All right. Now, the idea that this could be harmful, it was that like, well, I don't want to have this kind of growth hormone in the milk that I'm drinking or the dairy product that I'm actually consuming, right? Well, that's actually not the problem. In fact, the treatment of cow using recombinant bovine somatotropin growth hormone isn't really a problem in terms of it appearing in the milk product. It usually doesn't. It breaks down pretty quickly. But here's the thing, and I'm telling you this as a scientist, that bovine somatotropin treated cow milk does contain higher levels of another growth hormone that's a downstream result of the first growth hormone, okay? And that is insulin-like growth factor 1, something called IGF-1, all right? Now this is another pathway that the bovine hormone actually stimulates, and that's also found at higher levels in milk. And why is that a concern? It's kind of a theoretical concern, but as a researcher, when you look at the data coming out of laboratories, what we do know is that when lab animals with tumors are exposed to IGF-1, which can be found in milk, treated with these hormones, all right, the IGF-1 causes tumors to grow faster. Not a good thing, right? We haven't actually shown that this actually happens in humans consuming milk, but it's a theoretical concern that's in the lab. And therefore, my recommendation is that it's better not to drink milk from bovine somatotropin or BST treated cows. Look for another choice, because when it comes to a disease like cancer, why take the chance at all, right?
Raw milk is a firm no, especially for anyone over 65. Without pasteurization, a simple heat treatment that kills harmful microbes, dangerous pathogens like Listeria monocytogenes, Salmonella, and E. coli can survive and slip right into your glass. These bacteria can cause serious and even life-threatening illness in older adults, people with weakened immune systems, and anyone undergoing chemotherapy or immunotherapy. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, outbreaks linked to raw milk have been traced to severe infections, hospitalizations, and even deaths, with seniors being among the highest risk groups. The fix is simple and well proven. Always choose pasteurized milk and fermented dairy from reputable producers who follow strict hygiene and safety protocols. Keep it cold, at or below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius, from the time you buy it until the time you drink it. Store milk in the back of the fridge where it stays coldest, not in the door where temperature fluctuates. If it develops any off odors, sourness, or clumps before the expiration date, discard it immediately. This cold chain from store to home is your best defense against harmful bacteria and is far more valuable to your health than any supposed benefits claimed for raw milk. Risky pick number 2, flavored milks, chocolate, strawberry, dessert varieties. Flavored milks may look healthy, but they often act more like sweet treats. A single cup of chocolate, strawberry, or dessert-style milk can hide multiple teaspoons of added sugar. Too much added sugar fuels blood sugar spikes, triggers insulin surges, and stokes chronic inflammation, creating the kind of environment where fast-growing cells thrive. Diets high in added sugars are closely linked to inflammation, insulin resistance, and metabolic stress, factors that can raise the risk of cancer and heart disease. And a major study published in BMJ confirms that high intake of dietary sugars is broadly harmful, especially for heart and metabolic health. Stick with unsweetened versions and add natural flavor instead. Use spices like cardamom, ginger, or a twist of fresh citrus zest instead of syrup. If you want a sweet treat, pour just half a cup and pair it with a protein-rich snack, like nuts or half an egg salad sandwich. This combo slows sugar absorption and helps keep your blood sugar curves gentle and steady. Risky pick. Number 3. Sweetened condensed and dessert-style milks. Sweetened condensed milk and other dessert-style milks may taste indulgent, but nutritionally, they're little more than concentrated sugar with a dairy accent. A single 2 tablespoon serving can contain over 20 grams of sugar, nearly an entire day's limit for older adults recommended by the American Heart Association. For cancer survivors or anyone managing blood sugar, these products can be stealth saboteurs. High added sugar intake has been linked to increased inflammation, insulin resistance, and a greater risk of metabolic diseases. Consistently spiking glucose and insulin levels creates a hormonal environment that certain cancer cells may exploit for rapid growth. The good news is that it's easy to make swaps that still deliver creaminess without the sugar bomb. In recipes that call for sweetened condensed milk, like coffee drinks, pie fillings, or no-bake desserts. Try using plain kefir for tangy richness and probiotics, or unsweetened cashew or pea milk for a neutral creamy base. In sauces, soups, or casseroles, these unsweetened milks blend smoothly while keeping added sugar at zero. Your taste buds will adapt quickly to the less sweet profile, and your cells will thank you with steadier energy, less inflammation, and improved metabolic health. Risky pick number 4. Non-dairy creamers and sugary nutrition shakes. Many shelf-stable creamers and ready-to-drink nutrition shakes may seem handy, but are packed with added sugars, corn syrup solids, artificial emulsifiers, and even refined oils. These ingredients make them calorie-dense but not filling, leading to quick energy crashes and low satisfaction. According to a study in microbiomes, emulsifiers like carboxymethylcellulose and polysorbate 80, often found in these products, have been shown in lab studies to disrupt the gut microbiome and promote inflammation by altering the gut's bacterial balance and weakening the mucus barrier. Over time, this gut irritation can contribute to metabolic issues and poorer immune health.
What we're talking about here is bacteria. Microbiome is really an ecosystem of bacteria, about 39 trillion bacteria that lives in our gut. Actually, it lives all over our body, in every orifice, your ears, your nose, your nostrils, your mouth, your anus. I mean, every place there's an opening, there's bacteria. But here's the crazy thing. Inside our body, we're packed with bacteria at the lower end of our gut, okay? It's in an area, the home, the Great Barrier Reef of these natural bacteria in our body is in a part of the colon called the cecum. C-E-C-U-M. And if you're in the medical field, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's a part of the organ system that a lot of people aren't familiar with that term. Because, I used to wonder, okay, so where does a microbiome, where do all these bacteria live? It's called the cecum. All right. So when I went to medical school, I was, very quickly in the first week of school taught bacteria are bad, and you're going to learn and memorize all the bacteria that are bad. And then you're going to actually take pharmacology, and we're going to teach about all the drugs, antibiotics that can be used to kill the bad bacteria, right? And of course, even in kindergarten, we're always told, wash your hands, get rid of the bacteria, take a shower, all these kinds of messages about bacteria that have made us as a modern society shun, maybe even be a little repelled by this idea of bacteria. Well, turns out it's true. There are some bacteria that are really bad actors, and they cause all kinds of problems. But by and large, most of the bacteria that we will encounter in our lives are inside our body, not outside our body. And most of the bacteria are good, not bad. And that's what we call our gut microbiome. Our gut microbiome actually is an ecosystem of 39 trillion bacteria, most of it living inside our gut. And what they do inside our gut is they eat the food that our body doesn't digest. Let me explain. So you take a bite of an apple, all right? And our human bodies are going to absorb the natural fructose, the sugars in the apple. We're going to get the vitamins. We're actually going to get some of the other nutrients that are going to be absorbed into our body. But there's a lot of fiber that's going to be left over, right? The skin that you eat, if it's an organic apple, the fiber there's a lot of fiber in apple or pear. And then that fiber trickles down your 40 feet of intestines all the way to the cecum. And the bacteria there, you're feeding your bacteria this leftover stuff. Whatever we don't absorb goes to the bacteria. I'm going to come back to that point because you're asking, why are the chemicals not so good for us? It's because our bacteria get fed. But if it's normal, healthy food, normal, healthy fiber, our bacteria eats that fiber, and in payback for feeding them, the love that our bacteria show for us is they produce metabolites that are anti-inflammatory. These are called short-chain fatty acids, or SCAFAs. And they lower inflammation, they promote healing, they streamline our blood lipids, they make our insulin sensitivity better, which is an important part of our metabolism. So the fuel is actually more rapidly absorbed into our bloodstream. Nobody wants to have lots of glucose, lots of blood sugar at high levels all day long. And not good for our bodies, okay? It's like being stuck in a bathtub too long or a swimming pool too long. You know how your fingers wrinkle? That's not what you want. So you want our blood sugar to be readily absorbed into our cells. Okay, these are just partially what we know our gut bacteria does for us. So we got to feed them well. Feeding them like 3 times a day is kind of like having a pet. Our bacteria, our microbiome is like a pet. If you have a dog, a cat, a parakeet, a goldfish, most of us are responsible pet owners, so we make sure that we feed them our kibble or the flakes every single day or the seeds, right? Now, most of us will choose what kind of food we're actually feeding our pet. You don't want to feed your dog crap, right? You want to choose carefully. You want to take care of your animal. Well, that's basically what eating whole foods that are as good as possible, high quality whole foods. That's what we're feeding our gut microbiome, all right? And they pay us back by giving us health through these short-chain fatty acids. Okay, let's go back to your question. What about foods that are laden with synthetic chemicals, artificial preservatives, artificial sweeteners, by the way, is another big offender. All right, what happens is that we're feeding or we're eating it. Oh, there's no calories in artificial sweetener. This cheap shelf-stable stuff with artificial flavor tastes really great, goes down the gullet. We absorb relatively little because it doesn't have as many nutrients as the normal whole food. The rest of it, where does it go? We don't just poop it out. We're feeding our gut bacteria, that 39 trillion population, and we're feeding them crap. We're feeding them chemicals. We're feeding them things that they shouldn't be eating. Okay, imagine if you fed your pet dog, okay, really terrible quality food, chemical food all the time. I don't think your dog's going to last that long. Okay, all the problems that your vet tells you that the dogs, can have if you feed them poor quality food, that's what we're doing to our gut with all these artificial synthetic things. And so that's the reason why we need to take good care. Like this whole idea of the pregnant mom saying, I have to watch what I eat because I'm eating for 2. Well, guess what? Each of us, we're eating for 39 trillion. In fact, we are feeding our gut microbiome, and we have that responsibility. If we treat our gut microbiome well, they will treat our health well.
Instead of these packaged drinks, whip up a nourishing homemade shake in 2 minutes. Blend unsweetened pea protein milk with fresh ginger, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, and a pinch of cardamom. You'll get natural creaminess, fiber, and phytonutrients, without the sugar spike or gut stress. It's a satisfying sip that genuinely nourishes your body. Now, that promised reveal. Conventional milk can carry a metabolite of a mold toxin when cows eat mishandled feed. Regulators set strict limits and responsible producers screen carefully. But your best defense is a 2-step habit. 1. Choose pasteurized milk from producers who test for mycotoxins and maintain rigorous feed quality. 2. Store milk cold and finish it promptly. Smart sourcing plus cold chain discipline keeps your exposure low and your confidence high. Stay tuned. Next up is a fast recap and the simple steps you can take tonight to lock in everything you've learned. In just a moment, we'll start your transformative 3-minute fridge audit. Let's do it. First, create 3 clear zones in your refrigerator. Eye level is your daily super milk zone. Unsweetened soy milk, plain kefir, lactose-free ultra-filtered milk, and unsweetened pea milk. Front and center for easy reach. The middle shelf is for occasional choices, like unsweetened nut-based milks or plain drinkable yogurt. Good tools, best in moderation. The door? Park your red flag items there as visual speed bumps. Any flavored milks, dessert-style cans, and shelf-stable creamers. Label them rare treat. Next, grab painter's tape and a marker. On your favorite glass or reusable bottle, mark an 8-ounce and a 12-ounce line so every pour is on target. No guesswork. Date every carton the moment you open it, and set a tiny dot on day 3 to remind yourself to finish or freeze. Yes, freezing works. Pour leftovers into ice cube trays for sauces and smoothies, so none goes to waste. To see how easily these super milks fit into your life, here's a sample day plan. Morning. Warm, unsweetened soy milk whisked with turmeric and ginger alongside your breakfast. Midday. Sip plain kefir blended with fresh dill and a crack of pepper as a tangy companion to your meal. Snack. 8 ounces of pea protein milk and a small handful of walnuts for staying power. Dinner. Creamy roasted cauliflower puree loosened with lactose-free ultra-filtered milk, finished with a pinch of nutmeg. Evening. Wind down with gently warmed cardamom saffron milk, lactose-free or soy. No sweeteners needed. After 2 weeks of this rhythm, many people notice steadier energy, calmer digestion, and better sleep, thanks to balanced protein, fewer sugar spikes, and a happier gut. More importantly, these swaps help starve the abnormal blood vessel growth that disease depends on, while supporting the immune terrain that keeps you well. Every sip can build or chip away at your health. Tonight, take 3 minutes to reorganize the fridge, move your super milks to eye level, and relabel the sugar bombs. Share this with someone who needs practical, hopeful steps, and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more helpful tips. Together, let's eat and drink to beat disease, thrive after 65, and build the strong, vibrant future you deserve.